Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. Bryce, what is up?
Oh, not much, man. Just up early, ready to, get an episode in or recording in, considering I missed last week, gonna miss this next week. Or this next Sunday. So yeah, I wanted to get a podcast in. So I'm good to go, man. It's early, but I'm good. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. You make it sound like work. We do this for the people. We do this for the league.
No, that's why I want to do it. It's not work, but family and plans get in the way sometimes. So, I called you, we talked, and I was like, we gotta set up another date. I didn't want to miss 2 weeks. That's how I felt. So that's why we're
The Hardwood Nation feels love. All right, so we got to get into some shit today. Apparently, Luka did some things last night. Did some
get
big
locked in.
things last night. Yeah. Did some big things last night. As a basketball historian, self-proclaimed, but it's true. As a basketball historian, I can honestly say I have never in my life seen a triple double of this epic nature. Now, I happen to be a huge fan of triple doubles. I know someone isn't, but what I'm going to say is that I shitted on myself when I arrived home and saw what Luca was cooking up.
hmm
Bryce, how did you feel? Because I know you have Luca on fantasy right now, and I'm pretty sure you're watching the stat line. How do you
hmm
feel with a 60 point, I'm assuming 21 rebounds
Yeah,
and 10 assists triple double by one Luka Doncic?
I mean, it's just for a guy who's been dropping a few triple doubles all season. Like this one is just like the cherry on top right now. It's really crazy because like a few years ago, or I mean, I forget how many seasons it was, but you know, Westbrook got us used to the triple double. We didn't see it. We saw it once in a while, but when you average it for a season, kind of takes a little luster away. And I feel like the excitement for it has been coming back a little bit because it wasn't happening as much the last year or two. But I mean, Luka, Jokic, Jaw sometimes, Tatum sometimes. There's a few guys around the league that'll snag you one once in a while, right? But it's rare to have, and Westbrook still gets them. He got one last night, of course. But it's rare to see one with a 60 piece on top of it. And outside of Jokic, it's rare to see someone grab like 21 boards to get it, especially a guard. But Luka is just so big, the way he moves around the court and bullies. Pretty much, I've seen bully centers. It's just really impressive. And before he even got that last night, because I was watching that horrific Magic Lakers game, and I was like keeping up with some stuff. I saw a Luka pass behind the back where he wasn't even looking, and people were like, "What the hell?" Like it looked like some Magic Johnson shit. So I
Right,
was
right.
already seeing a little bit of what he was doing in that game, and I was like, okay, this is impressive. And then like by the time I actually saw again the ending stat line, I was like, what 60? I mean that's nuts. I mean you'll see once in a while like Booker, or I'm even trying to think when was the last time Embiid dropping 40 pieces. You know what I mean? But like to drop
Yeah.
60 and a triple double. I mean, I don't. I saw a tweet or I saw something talking about the relevance in like terms of NBA history for this. But
hmm
I don't really remember what it said. All I know is that it's pretty historic stat line.
I don't think it's never been done as far as I can remember. Um, Give me one second. I don't think it's never been done. So the most impressive part to me in this triple double isn't the combination of the 60, the 21, and the 10. It's the fact that they actually won a game that mattered and they had to come back against the New York Knicks to win that game. So that's what made the triple double matter even more because everything that he did was necessary for them to win that game. I believe they were down by 12 with like a minute left and they came back and won the game in overtime or some shit. This is crazy. So
Did you
that's the
see the
most
final play that forced overtime? The way he So I think he was at the free throw line, and he he was trying to make the shot come back to him, right? Or he was trying to
Mhm.
get a rebound. So he was intentionally missing the last free throw. The rebound bounces around a few hands, and it lands like in his palm. Like as he's jumping, he just taps it in. Like it's amazing. It's amazing, and that's what happened to force overtime. And I saw that clip, and I was like, Jesus.
Okay, so I got some historic facts here. Last night, a lot of records were set. So, of course, the 60 piece was Luka's career high. The 21 rebounds was a career high. The s- the 60 points is a Dallas Mavericks scoring record, surpassing Dirk at 53.
Wow.
In the American Airlines Center in Dallas's arena, it surpassed the scoring record of 57 by Stephen Curry. Um, it is the this is a huge deal because I thought this was okay. It is the third 50-point game for the Dallas Mavericks. I thought Dirk had hit that, but nope, Luka has that record. It is the first 60, 20, 10 assist game in the NBA history. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
It is the second 60-piece triple double in NBA history. James Harden had the first one, but he didn't have 21 rebounds.
Wow.
Let's see. And Luka has become the sixth player in NBA history to record six or more 40-piece triple doubles, joining Oscar Robertson, James Harden, Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron James, and my main man, Russell Westbrook.
He's in good company.
Luca did that last night. I'm going to play this clip of Luca going into the locker room after the game last night. You know, the little celebration that the Mavericks did because Luca gets all the flowers today. So let me just play this. Of course.
He's awesome.
Hey, yo. That wasn't impossible.
All right. So, yeah, Luca deserves all the flowers. And needless to say, we know he got the game ball yesterday,
Yeah, for sure.
last night after that performance. So, kudos to Luca. And kudos to the Mavericks for beating the Knicks because a certain team in South Beach need the Knicks to lose right now. Hey,
Yeah, they're
Bryce.
playing
So,
well.
I think they've dropped. No, they've dropped just one game. Hey, so we had some shenanigans on Christmas. So the much anticipated matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies took place on NBA's Christmas Showcase. Of course, it was a game that happened because one of the Grizzlies, I can't remember who it was jawing back and forth with Draymond Green on Twitter about wanting this game on Christmas after their heated playoff series last year. So the NBA gave them exactly what they wanted. However, Golden State had no Stephen Curry, had no Andrew Wiggins. The Grizzlies were kind of complete. You know, Desmond Bain had just came back, still a rusty first game back, but the Grizzlies were more complete than the Golden State Warriors. How surprised are you that the Golden State Warriors ran through Memphis?
I mean, in the course of like a whole season, like to me, nothing like that is super surprising, especially when it's like when you're talking about Golden State. I know they haven't been the greatest team, but it's Golden State, so I give them the benefit of the doubt, right? But without Curry and Wiggins, like with 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 all the smack, Memphis has been talking. You have to show up. You have to make a statement. Otherwise, you just turn into a joke, right? So it's like these young teams, some of these younger players. It's nice. They have the right attitude and stuff, but some of them need to really learn to when is a good time and when is not a good time to like try to impose your will. And I I mean, like I said, it's good to be confident, but until you've proven something, until you win some big games, let your record talk. Let the way you play on the court talk. Ja is like a phenomenal talent. And Memphis is one of the better younger teams, right? I'm not knocking them, but if you have ambitions, if you've set goals for your team, don't make it harder on yourself by talking shit against one of the best dynasties in the last decade, one of the best dynasties the NBA's ever had. Don't go talking shit if you can't back it up, man. You're only gonna put targets on your back. Um, I get how some people are saying, they're young, and what else do you want them to say? Like, you want them to have a level of confidence. They're pro athletes. They're especially Ja trying to be one of the best players in the world right now. I mean, it's just kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's like it's a very good stepping stone and like a learning experience for that team, but it was silly. You just look and you go, that's a young person's mistake. That's a young person's mistake, and Golden State taught them a lesson. I don't think they want any of that for a 7-game series. I'll tell you, because it's going to be that, but it's going to be more intense because it's a playoff
Yeah.
series. I don't think they want that. Not after what just happened, and they did it without a healthy Steph, or without Steph being on the court, and arguably one of their outside of Steph and Clay, you could say it's Wiggins and Poole is the future. So to do it without Wiggins and Curry, that's a statement game for Golden State the other way. So I'm sure Memphis is going to have to build up some more confidence after that beatdown.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch. Between visiting family and friends, that was the only game I got to watch on Christmas Day. But I made sure that was the one to watch because I knew how Golden State was going to come out. I wanted to see
Mm-hmm.
how Memphis was going to come out. So the final was 123 to 109. Jordan Poole started off the game hot as he should. So our last podcast, we talked about how he needed to step up. Literally immediately after that, he's had some monster games going forward. But I want to dig into this game a little bit. Excuse me. 1 second. Because where is it? When the box score comes up. Early morning shenanigans, of course.
Because I
I
have
want to
Clay. I have Clay in fantasy in one of my leagues,
uh
and I think he had a good game again last night too. But I can't remember the stat line from the Memphis game.
so here's what Clay dropped. So Clay was able to do 1 second. We're having early morning shenanigans. Hey, technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clay was able to drop 24 points. Good Clay Thompson
Okay.
game, consider.
Yeah.
39 minutes. Jordan Poole in 29 minutes dropped 32 points because he was ejected early in the fourth quarter, very early in the fourth quarter, because emotions was high in this game. There's a
Yeah.
total of 7 technicals called in this game. Memphis came out and tried the big boy Golden State because Memphis is the bigger team. Golden State was having absolutely no part of it. Even Draymond Green had a Draymond had a Draymond game. He only had 3 points, but he had 13 rebounds and 13 assists. Good job, Draymond. I like it. You got to do something, right? The Golden State Warriors absolutely hammered Memphis. And even though Ja had a good game, I think Ja dropped a 40 piece, I believe. Let's see. 36 points by Ja.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. And I know this was the Memphis Grizzlies' first time playing on Christmas Day in the history of their existence. I get it. They were shell shocked. They wasn't ready. One thing I want to say about Ja Morant, because I absolutely adore Ja Morant and I love the swagger. I do have an issue with Ja Morant shooting 10 threes. He's not a 3-point shooter. At some point, the coach has to sit him down and say, stop jacking up threes. He went 2 for 10 from beyond the arc. You ain't Steph Curry. You ain't Klay Thompson. You ain't even Jordan Poole. That's not your game. So I didn't like Josh shooting 10. I just didn't like it. If Desmond Bain wants to shoot 10 threes, have at it. He's going to make about 5 or 6 of them. Ja, Doesn't need to be shooting 10 threes at all. But like you said, I want to echo what you said. I don't think Memphis is ready for a 7-game series with Golden State because Memphis was the one directing all the heat at Golden State. Now you have their attention. And I don't think you wanted that attention. I don't think you wanted that attention at all. So that's what I want to say about that. Bryce, the Brooklyn Nets right now are the hottest team in the NBA. They've won 9 straight games. I know we talked about this a little bit offline yesterday. How impactful do you think Jacques Vaughn has been to the Nets?
I think extremely impactful, but here's why. The team has allowed him to be impactful. Now you can argue before Steve Nash was good fit, bad fit, whatever. I mean, if he was on any other team, we would get a different type of sample size as Steve Nash as a coach, right? Either way, didn't work out. Okay, I'm not saying he's a good coach or a bad coach. It looked like he was not a good coach. But I will say this. They set the culture for him to not be effective there. That needed to end. Okay, that was on everybody. Everybody knew that situation. That's on everybody. We're past that. That's fine. I think they've allowed Jacques Vaughn to be the coach they need to be, or they need him. So to me, and we talked, like, I don't think like we haven't really seen much of him since he left Orlando. He's just been an assistant here or there, right? He got another chance here in Brooklyn with some good players, right? They at least have some guys there that we can argue, right? They may not be the deepest team, but they've got some guys there. Kyrie's finally healthy and playing again, right? So KD is playing arguably an MVP level in the last couple weeks. He's doing it. He's getting triple doubles almost, or he's playing some better defense. It just looks like the team is playing with a different tone and energy altogether, and it's resulting in wins. So I think, Brooklyn in this last couple week stretch has finally looked like the team everybody kind of feared from like 3-4 years ago in anticipation, right? Like, this is what they could be. They've shown signs of being good. They made the playoffs. They get blown out. You know what I mean? Like, they can only go so deep, but this looks different. The energy feels different. The confidence finally feels different, not just in KD and Kyrie, but in the team. So I think, for as much as we like to bash Brooklyn, and the reason we bash them is because they set goals. It's kind of like Memphis, except KD and Kyrie had already proved some things, so we take them more seriously. But they hadn't proved anything as a team together yet. So we were starting, we bashed them because we just didn't think it would work. Well, now they're starting to actually prove that they can get a good team energy going. And I think they came to Brooklyn, they set up that team all wrong. The dynamic, everything, right? We've talked about this I don't know how many times. It was the setup for disaster. I think Harden leaving, the way the team started off this year, getting rid of Nash, is all just a big slap in the face, right? I mean, how can you not course correct? How can you not change your ways? And now, you know what? Give them their flowers. Yeah. It's not our favorite players on that team. We had a good time bashing them because the rest of the league was propping them up so much, and we were a little confused by that, right? But now, let's see where they end on the season, right? But right now, it looks like they're finally the team that everyone thought they would be. And I got no problem giving them props now, but they're playing, and the feeling that you get when you watch them is different now. So let's adjust our expectations and see what they can do now that they have a different coach in place, got the team playing well. Kyrie and KD are both back, but let's see what they do this year. This is the year. This is truly the year to see what they're capable of. I know they don't have Harden anymore. That was a weird fit with Kyrie there as well to me anyway. So let's see what they can do. But also, on top of giving them their flowers, for Jacques Vaughn to come in and to have the team playing this way, I'll give some flowers and kudos to him as well, because he got a bad rep in Orlando. He didn't really have much to work with. He was a first-year new coach with them. He had just been an assistant before. I never had any problems with him. It just wasn't a good fit at the time, and he moved on. We moved on, of course, but kudos to Jack Bond for getting Brooklyn on the right page after Brooklyn set up a culture to say, fuck the coach. We don't need a coach.
Right.
And then 3-4 years later, they realized, oh, we might need a coach. So
Right.
kudos to those
Right.
guys for finally getting on some kind of right track to winning because the team has talent, right? It was getting squandered. There's too much bickering, too much like inside shit going on with that team to sabotage them. So it looks like they're on the right track, and that's good for the NBA. So I'm excited to see how they finish off the season.
Absolutely. And I think the most impressive part about what they've done is when the spotlight has been off, that is when they've been shining. When all eyes were on Brooklyn, for whatever reason, they were failing miserably. But they're doing this now, and they're doing it low key. Like no one's talking about Brooklyn right now. I know they just won 9 straight games, right? So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
that's a good thing. They, despite being top heavy on talent with those two guys, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, they need to be under the radar. They don't need to have all the spotlight on them, and that's when they're going to be successful. They need to be that sleeper pick, not the front running pick, but they need to be the sleeper pick that people think could challenge. Let's say Milwaukee can challenge Boston. That's the role I see the Brooklyn Nets in going forward, and I think that's the best role for them. Um, I know you wanted to talk about Chicago a little bit. They're not who we thought they were going to be this year. I know they've been without Lonzo Ball for all of the season, but I don't know how much impact he would have had considering the locker room issues, the issues with players versus coaches that's going on in Chicago. Billy Donovan actually did sign an extension recently for another 3 years, but I don't know if the blame is going to go to him or if the blame is going to go to the players, considering they're still trying to figure out, and I'm speaking of DeRozan and Levine, they're still trying to figure out how to play off of one another because they're kind of doing the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown thing where they kind of take turns. Um, what feel do you get from Chicago moving forward? Can they fix it or should they blow it up?
My feel is I hope they don't blow it up too much because their pick that Orlando gets this year is top 4 protected, and I really like that pick. But I think it's going down, and I think it's going down in a fiery blaze. So I think so. You mentioned Tatum and Brown, right? They came into the league young together, though.
Right.
Levine's been he got how long has he been in Chicago?
Levine has been in Chicago for, I think this is his 4th or 5th year now.
Right, and the whole time, except for until they got DeRozan, he was like the guy, right?
Yes.
He gets hurt. It doesn't seem to be like he has bounced back from that injury as well as people had hoped. It just doesn't seem like he's quite the same player as before. And with that, in adding DeRozan, and DeRozan having arguably the breakout season of his career,
yeah,
I think it just rubbed Levine the wrong way. And for whatever reason, that locker room doesn't seem to get along. And from what we've read in the rumors, is it's not just Levine, but it's like the whole team. It's hard to come back from that. We saw Boston have some locker room issues, and we heard that Marcus Smart, they had a locker room meeting, and Smart really got on everybody, right? And they came together and they finished the season strong. They looked fine. But those guys came together when they were young. They've been on the same team for a long time. The Bulls threw all these guys together, right? DeRozan comes in, has a monster season, probably makes Levine feel some kind of way. Levine's coming off an injury, probably not feeling the same way. You have Ball go down as your main distributor. And then on top of it, you make a big trade for Vucevic, and he's not really having the impact that they would hope he'd have. So really, all the major moves that a lot of people, including us, I think, when it first happened, we saw, I think, Chicago as a possible future bright light, right? Like we thought they were going to be trending up, and everything has really fallen apart in the last 3-4 years instead of trending up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's signs of it getting better this season. And if you have these locker room issues and you don't have a guy that's willing to, a long term like team guy that's willing to sit everybody down and get everybody on the same page, or if they're even willing to be on the same page, we don't know what that Boston dynamic was like and what the players were willing to do. The Chicago players might not be willing to do that. They might not be buying in on top of not getting along. There's so much that has to go right just in the locker room that doesn't even take place on the court, right? Chicago on
Right.
paper looks talented enough. That's not the issue.
Right.
That's not the issue. So at this point, with like who they have there, to me, my initial like gut reaction is blow that up because this is
Mhm.
we're a couple years into this, even with DeRozan, and there's been issues almost from the start. It feels like there's been rumors of this almost from the beginning
Right.
and
Right.
it's just not translating to win. So it's like, how long do you want to ride on this bus that's kind of going nowhere when you have talented guys like Levine and DeRozan on the court? It just seems like it's trending down. So it's like, in my eyes, I'd go ahead and just you're gonna start over. You're not gonna get a championship from this team. So why wait?
Yeah. It boiled over last week. As you know, I am a huge fan of Zach LaVine. I've always been a huge fan of Zach LaVine. But I know basketball, and Zach LaVine's points aren't impactful. DeMar DeRozan has been the most impactful player for Chicago since he got there, which he's in his second year right now. And maybe that does rub LaVine the wrong way, especially he's still working himself back from the knee injuries and things of that nature, where
Hmm.
he's like, so this paraphrasing, so this old head's gonna come in here and be more impactful than I'm being right now. Like this was supposed to be my team. That's probably that's probably the mindset, right?
Yeah.
And Demar's just like, fuck this. I'm angry. People thought I was done. I have something to prove. So
Well,
the two ideologies are kind of clashing. They can be friends off the court. They just don't jive well on the court. And then you don't have one of the better facilitators in the league, in Lonzo Ball, who can direct that
right.
traffic. And then also, like you mentioned, Vooch. We both love Vooch. Vooch has his defensive deficiencies, but Chicago's a perimeter team. They're not. And can Vooch come out? Yes, he can. But they're not a perimeter team. Vooch is like the fourth option on that team, when he still could be like a second option on some teams. So they're
Yeah.
not using him to his full ability too. So it's a bad player mix right
Also,
now.
real
Let's
quick, Ball coming back could help Vooch too because we know the big man is not getting the ball unless someone's getting him the
Mhm.
ball. You know what I mean? And that's the point
Right,
guard's job to
right,
set up the team and to get guys the ball. So
right.
yeah, Ball could fix maybe some of these issues, but not all the locker
Mhm.
room issues. But yeah,
No, no. And the ironic thing about Chicago was they pretty much have the same team they had last year. This team was in the top four for most of the season last year, despite the fact that they really didn't beat the good teams, but they beat everyone else, so that kind of padded their record just a little bit. And then of course they ran into Milwaukee, and Milwaukee took their cornbread. But but this year is like way downhill from what we saw
yeah,
from them last year. So yeah, they may need to call Atlanta around trade deadline. They may need to give Atlanta a call because you know, maybe get rid of Levine, maybe get Trey Young up there. Maybe DeRozan might defer a little bit to Trey Young. We'll see how it goes. We'll see because those two teams are
you're Atlanta
disgruntled.
though. If you're Atlanta though, is that a good enough offer if you have to dump Trey Young?
Hey, when it comes down to the money works. So,
Hmm.
um, what would Zach Levine want to play with DeJounte? Because let DeJounte seems okay playing with Trey Young. Zach Levine would be the guy in Atlanta. I think those two could play well off of each other. DeJounte would move back to his natural position of point guard, um, which last year he was a triple double machine too. So it could work with Levine being in Atlanta. It really could. So
Yeah.
the bigger question is Trey Young in Chicago versus Levine in Atlanta. I think Levine would do well in Atlanta. I don't know exactly how well Trey Young would do in Chicago, but
I think
who
Trey
knows, right?
Young is always going to do well for Trey Young, if that makes sense. It's hard. Like, look, I'm not in the locker room, right? I'm not buddies with these guys, so I can't speak on what they're like behind closed doors. But on the surface, it doesn't feel like Trey Young is the team kind of guy. You know what I mean? He's
Right,
out. It
right,
feels this way, anyways. It feels like he's
right,
out for
right,
his own bucket.
right, right. I can go with that a little bit. I could definitely go with that a little bit. Bryce, before we leave today, despite the Los Angeles Lakers running through the Orlando Magic last night, we got news last week that Anthony Davis is going to be out indefinitely again. What were your initial thoughts on Davis going down once again?
Well, it was about that time, wasn't it? That's what I mean. Unfortunately, look, it's what we've all come to expect, right? Like, I don't know how many times this season already we've said, well, yeah, even when they started winning some games, how long will it last if Davis goes down? Which will
Mhm.
inevitably happen. Now, from what I've read, it's like they're saying like a month, supposedly, but there's rumors that there's fears that it could be more serious.
Mm.
Because I think they're saying, what are they saying? It's an ankle or a foot thing or leg thing. But I read something yesterday or the day before that there's rumors around the league that they fear it could be something a little worse. So they're saying a
Mm.
month, but with it being Davis, I don't know. I won't be surprised if he misses more time. The problem is the Lakers can't really afford to do that right now. Like, yeah, they did beat the Magic last night, but they hit an odd amount of shots. It was probably one of the better games you'll see the Lakers play without Anthony Davis, probably for all season. It sucks
Mhm.
that it was against my Magic and I had to watch it, but that was my takeaway from watching the game. That they basically couldn't miss in the first half, especially. They just came out there on fire, right? But long term, their success without Davis, with the way they looked already this season, um, I think they're kind of dead in the water. I don't think they can afford for Davis to be missing this kind of time, which he always does. Um, so I think they're in a rough spot, even though they did win last night. I think they're going to be in a rough
Right.
spot for a couple months.
So I just put up the official Lakers statement from about 3 days ago. So it has been determined that Davis has a stress injury in his right foot,
Mm.
kind of sort of similar to like a hairline fracture. You don't want big men to have issues with their feet. Guards can kind of do okay with issues with their feet. Big men, you don't want to have issues with their feet because it could be a 1 month injury, could also be a 2 month injury.
Is there any
Um,
injury that a big man recovers at a great like? Because if it seems like it's a back or a foot thing, big men are done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Only because of the pounding. It's just too much of a pounding either way. Um, Davis could very well be out until like March. But we'll see. But the Lakers, he had just started hitting his stride. But
Hmm.
like you always said, this is what happens every single year with Anthony Davis. He'll have a great 1 or 2 week stretch, and then the injury right after it, and it just derails all the momentum that they build. Um,
It's like at this
I
point,
think
you don't hope that he's not going to get hurt. You hope that it's not going to be a bad injury. That's
right,
what you hope
right,
for at this
right.
point.
I was watching a Laker game earlier in the season and Davis was playing, and I swear to God, when he went down, and he wasn't down long, but when he went down, the arena just like got quiet and gasped because they're like, "Oh shit,
This is
this
it.
might be it. This might be it."
And unfortunately, that sucks when you have a player like that. And so, like in
Right.
comparison, in some ways, right? Last night, Paolo for the Magic had his worst game of the season. He got in foul trouble
Mhm,
early. Like he just couldn't do nothing right. It was just a bad
mhm.
like everything was going the Lakers' way early, and everything was against the Magic. But the Magic have had a lot of injuries over the last, I'd say, decade or ever since the Dwight Howard era. It's even we just
Been a
can't seem
lot.
to keep right. Paolo had one of the few buckets he got. He came down awkward because Patrick Beverly was on the ground, had fallen,
Yeah.
and Paolo fell. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that's the team feeling, right? It
Right.
sucks to have that feeling, but we've been hurt by injury so many times as a team. But to have that feeling from just a player, every time Davis does something, you're like, is this it? Is this it?
Mhm,
That's stressful as a fan, as a team. I mean, I get what he can be when he's healthy, when he's on, but it's just it's always right there in the back of your mind. Is this the game or is
mhm.
this the play? He fell down. Is this the time he's not going to get back up?
Right.
It
Right.
it sucks. It sucks, but the Lakers went out and got him. They made they made such a fuss about
Yeah.
the way they went about getting him. It just I'm not bashing Davis because you can't just not get hurt. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it just seemed like they put too much faith into him being healthy, and it's just not going to work out.
No, I agree with you 100%. Isn't it sad?
It's sad, but unfortunately, you watch enough sports, you see this all the time in every sport. I mean, think about how many talented players got cut short. I mean, I think the ultimate like high potential with nothing coming out of it. I still think of Greg Oden. How
Mm,
many big men have just not been able to come back from stuff like that once it starts happening? Even guards, if it's the right injury, some guys' careers are just over, and you hate to see it. I'm not saying Anthony Davis's career is over. I'm just saying like the way he's been able to not stay on the court is going to start. Now that he's getting a little bit older, he's going to start seeing the league treat him in a way that's maybe different than the way he's been treated before. Not saying they're going to bash him or do anything, but I don't think he's going to command the kind of respect he has before.
right.
He's getting older. These injuries are going to start keeping him out for longer and longer. If he has something major, I just don't know how much longer he can keep up the kind of performance that people expect from him. You know,
Right. 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 No, I agree 100% with you. And hopefully he can return sooner than later. But we shall see. As always, with Anthony Davis.
always a
That
question
is
mark.
gonna be oh yeah, a huge question mark, right? That is going to be it for this week's episode of the Hardwood Nation podcast. Hey, we appreciate all the love that we get from you guys. We are still growing our subscriber base.
Right.
Please like, subscribe, and share our content. Comment, tell us what's up. We will reply back. Let us know how great we're doing. Let us know that we hate your guts. We'll reply anyway. We are out.